What if I told you the cup you proudly call coffee every morning is not coffee at all? Across the country, many mixes sold as coffee are mostly sugar-powdered oils and flavouring with only a small trace of real coffee inside. People drink them out of routine, never noticing how far they've drifted from the drink they trust. The effects show up quietly, especially for anyone past 50. Sudden sweetness gives a quick lift, then drops you flat. Creamers leave the body heavy before noon. Additives meant to create a smooth taste often bring headaches, queasiness, or a restless buzz that fades too fast. A cup that should steady the day ends up taking more than it gives. These powders also reshape what the country thinks coffee should be. The depth, the bean, the craft replaced by something sweet that only looks the part. Seeing that shift happen so easily makes me worry for all of us. That's why in this video I will show you the 7 brands doing the most harm, and don't worry, I'll also show you how to protect yourself from them. Number 1. Nescafe 3-in-1. Popular, worldwide, convenient, that is how people usually talk about Nescafe. It sounds reliable, easy, something you never have to think twice about. But here's the part most people miss: a lot of what comes in those boxes hardly counts as coffee. And Nescafe 3-in-1 is the clearest example. If you care about the taste and honesty of real coffee, keeping this box out of your home might be the safest choice you make today. Think about what you expect when you open a sachet. A calm start, a warm sip, a bit of clarity before the day begins. What you actually get is a mug built from sugar first, powdered fats second, and flavouring somewhere behind that. The coffee is pushed so far down the formula it barely has a say in the drink. And now comes the short truth nobody ever tells you. 3-in-1 doesn't mean coffee, sugar and creamer. It means a sugar jolt, a heavy dip and a crash waiting to happen. Once you feel it, the pattern is impossible to ignore. The sweetness lifts you fast, then drops you faster. The powdered fats sit heavy in the stomach before noon arrives. The flavouring creates a soft, easy taste, but it also leaves older drinkers with small signals the body sends when something is off. A light pressure behind the eyes, a wave of tiredness out of nowhere, a restless buzz that burns out too quickly. Many people chalk it up to age, stress and sleep. They never look at the tiny packet causing the same cycle every morning. If you check the formulation, everything lines up. The coffee content is small. Sugar and glucose syrup do most of the lifting. The creamer fills the rest of the space. What you end up drinking is a sweetened powder wearing the mask of coffee. If you are past 50, the body reacts even more sharply. Your system wants something steady in the morning, not a sudden hit that forces your energy up, then drags it back down. But that is exactly what this sachet creates. You start the day with a false rise and spend the next hour paying for it. Compare that to real coffee. Actual coffee comes from beans that carry natural depth, aroma and strength. When you brew it, the flavour opens on its own. It does not need a blanket of sugar. It does not hide behind whiteners. A proper cup gives you a calm lift, something that settles in without shaking you. You feel the roast, the work, the simplicity. Nothing about it tricks you into believing it is more than it is. Nescafe 3-in-1 walks in the opposite direction. It swaps the honesty of roasted beans for a wave of sweetness that covers everything. It replaces aroma with a manufactured profile that tastes the same no matter what. It teaches people to accept a dessert mix as a morning coffee. And once that pattern settles in, most forget what real coffee is even supposed to feel like. For older drinkers, that shift carries a price. The first drink of the day sets your rhythm. When that drink is mostly sugar and oils, the rhythm bends downward before the morning has even begun. What worries me most is how quietly this changes the country's idea of coffee. Something that used to carry warmth and craft is turning into a simple, instant sweetness. The cup becomes an imitation of a ritual, not the ritual itself. And slowly, without noticing, people drift away from real coffee altogether. The irony cuts deep. A company praised worldwide for making coffee somehow ends up selling a mix that barely qualifies as one. And if you think that is disappointing, hold tight. The next brand goes even lower. Number 2. Kenco 3-in-1. Are you used to drinking Kenco? Yes, right. It goes down smooth, a little sweet, harmless on the tongue. That quick comfort makes people think they've chosen something mild and friendly. But no, that's the trap. Give it up. I'm serious, I'll tell you why right now. That easy taste isn't coming from coffee, it's coming from the whitener. In Kenco 3-in-1, the whitener takes up more space than the coffee itself. Sugar leads the mix, fully hydrogenated. Vegetable oil sits right behind it, and the actual coffee barely shows up. Stir it, then look closely. What kind of coffee turns white before it even turns brown? Once you notice it, you can't unsee it. The whitener melts fast, coats your tongue, and hides every rough edge. It feels soft for a second, then it settles in your stomach like a small weight. The sweetness gives you a quick lift, then drops you flat. Older drinkers feel it the most, a brief spark, then tiredness, then heaviness that hangs under the ribs long after the cup is gone. That isn't age. That's the formula doing its job. Now let's break down the real issue, the fat they use. Fully hydrogenated oils aren't natural fats. They are industrial fats, hardened to stay solid, cheap and long-lasting. And once they're in your body, they move slowly. They push digestion back. They add a dull pressure in the chest. They make simple breathing feel slightly heavier after the cup. Over time, that becomes more than discomfort. Long-term intake of industrial fats has been linked to higher levels of unhealthy cholesterol and a greater risk of heart problems. Public health bodies in the UK and abroad have pointed out that diets high in these fats contribute to a major share of cardiovascular disease. The World Health Organization has warned for years that industrial fats play a role in large numbers of diet-related heart deaths globally. For anyone past 50, the risk rises because arteries already stiffen with age. Less flexibility means more strain, and more strain means every bad cup has a louder impact. Sugar adds to the blow. You get a fast spark, then a sharp slump. You feel awake, then drained. You want food earlier than usual because the crash arrives before lunch. Coffee should keep you steady. This one shakes you around, then leaves you lower than where you started. And when you compare it to Nescafe, at least Nescafe keeps a bit of the brown. You can still see a trace of the bean. Kenco drops even that. The cup turns pale thin, almost grey. Nothing about it says coffee. Nothing about it respects the drink. They should call it fat disguise, not coffee. Taste tells the truth once you know it. Real coffee brings warmth, depth, and a rise in energy that feels natural. Even Nescafe, with all its flaws, hangs on to some sense of the bean. But Kenco 3-in-1 wipes the bean out completely. It gives you sweetness instead of strength, creaminess instead of character, and a feeling of heaviness that no morning routine needs. 2 brands down, 2 3-in-1 mixes revealed. And if you've been paying attention, we've already counted 6 problems: the sugar shock, the fat load, the pale colour, the weak energy, the uneasy digestion, and the empty taste. But we're not done. The next brand manages to stack even more on top of that. Number 3, Nescafe Gold Latte. I hate to say this, but 3-in-1 is not the only Nescafe product that deserves a place on this list. Its gold latte is no less problematic. People see the gold packaging, the soft colours, the smooth promises. They think they are getting something closer to a cafe drink. But give it one honest look and the whole picture shifts. First, think about what you expect from a real latte. Warm milk that feels full, not heavy. A gentle coffee base that rises through the creaminess, a natural sweetness that comes from the milk itself, a texture that rolls, not sticks. A proper latte feels balanced soft, at first deeper, as you sip steady as it settles in your system. To be fair, Nescafe Gold Latte shows a faint shadow of that. One sip might trick you for a moment, but beneath that surface sits a formula that works against everything a latte should be. Remember the 6 problems from before: the sudden lift, the quick drop, the heavy stomach, the weak energy, the uneasy digestion, the thin flavour. Give it a little time and you will feel all of them again in this so-called latte. The sweetness hits first, then the slump. The creaminess sits in the body in a dull way instead of a warm one. The flavour floats for a second, then disappears, leaving nothing but a sugary aftertaste. And older drinkers feel that shift faster than anyone. But there is one more issue here, and it sits quietly in the middle of the ingredient list: glucose syrup. It doesn't belong anywhere near a latte, yet it leads the flavour. It forces the drink to taste sweet before it tastes like coffee. It masks weak beans. It speeds up digestion, unnaturally creating the same fast rise and fast fall pattern again. And for the body, especially a body past 50, glucose syrup means sharper spikes, shorter focus, and a tiredness that settles over the shoulders, as if the day has become heavier than it should be. And believe me, we've only touched the surface of what makes this sachet frustrating. What bothers me most is how hard it tries to look premium. You pay more for gold latte, higher than many instant boxes on the same shelf. You expect something at least above average. You expect a cup that respects your money and your morning. But what you receive is sweetness wrapped in pretension. A soft cup that tastes expensive for 3 seconds and empty for the rest of the day. I have a friend who learned that the hard way. David bought a box during a busy week. He wanted something quick but pleasant. After 2 or 3 sachets, he threw the entire box out. Not because he is picky, he drinks anything usually, but because he felt a strange mix of hunger, nausea and exhaustion afterward. He said, "If this is latte, I'd rather quit coffee entirely." And honestly, I understood exactly what he meant. At least the previous products we exposed don't try to pretend they are luxury. They are cheap and they act like they're cheap. This one behaves like a gift from a trickster. The outside is polished and charming, designed to make you feel you're buying quality, but the inside, it's hollow. And that brings me to a question I've asked myself more than once. Has Nescafe traded the knowledge of real coffee for marketing campaigns and shiny packaging? Has the image become more important than the drink it might work for people who never look past the sachet? But once you see what's actually inside, once you taste the truth under the sweetness, there is no going back. A real latte lifts you. This one drains you. Unfortunately, we're nowhere near the peak yet. The next culprit will disappoint you too, but in a completely different way and on the level this one doesn't even reach. Number 4. Tesco Mocha. Do you know which coffee is the easiest to fake? Not cappuccino, not latte. It's mocha, and Tesco knows that better than anyone. Why is mocha so easy to imitate? Because chocolate can hide everything. If the coffee is weak, if the formula is cheap, if the ingredients are padded out, the cocoa covers it. That single fact makes mocha the perfect drink for manufacturers to dilute. And that's a shame, because a real mocha, when done properly, is supposed to be simple, soft chocolate warmth on top, steady coffee underneath, neither fighting for control. A gentle drink that keeps you awake without overwhelming you. Now look at Tesco Mocha. The balance disappears before you even finish stirring. Tesco leans heavily on cocoa powder and sugar. In many batches, sugar makes up more than 1/3 of the mix, while the actual coffee content drops to well under 10%. Cocoa comes in strong, creamer comes in stronger, and the coffee sits quietly in the corner, like it has nothing to contribute. You taste sweetness, more sweetness, and then a faint shadow of something that wants to be coffee, but isn't allowed to speak. And your body reacts exactly to that design. The hit is shallow, the lift is brief, the drop is quick. It isn't fullness, you feel its emptiness. Instead of the steady energy a mocha should give you, get a flutter of alertness followed by a soft crash. The cocoa dries the mouth, the sugar spikes your blood quickly, and the creamer leaves a coated feeling without giving any real substance. Older drinkers feel that dip faster than younger ones. A shaky lightness in the limbs, a sense of being slightly hollow and craving soon after, because nothing in the cup supports the body for long. But Tesco Mocha causes a second kind of damage, the cultural kind. Think about what a mocha is supposed to represent. In cafes, it arrives in a warm cup with a small swirl of foam and a thin dusting of cocoa on top. It's designed to be gentle, balanced and respectful of both sides of its identity. The chocolate is meant to support the coffee, not overpower it. A proper mocha behaves like the quiet partner, not the headliner. Tesco Mocha ignores that entirely. It acts like a dessert pretending to be a morning drink. Instead of lifting the coffee, it smothers it. Instead of softening the bitterness, it erases the coffee altogether. Imagine a supporting actor who suddenly pushes the lead off the stage and shouts every line at full volume. That's exactly how this mix behaves. The cocoa is loud, the sugar is louder, and the coffee is nowhere to be found. And what makes this worse is the expectation people bring to mocha. They choose it because it's supposed to be comforting, because it's the safest drink when you don't want too much strength, because it's meant to be a warm, reliable start to the day. Tesco flips that into something noisy, thin and unsatisfying, a drink that wants to be liked but has nothing real behind its sweetness. Taste is one thing, distortion is another. Whoever first blended chocolate and coffee understood harmony. Let the coffee speak, let the chocolate soften it, let both shine without competing. If that person saw this Tesco version, a cup built mostly from sugar cocoa filler and creamer with less than 10% coffee, they would be heartbroken. The recipe wasn't meant to be twisted into something loud and empty. Instant coffee latte, and now even mocha has failed the test. You must have thought cappuccino might be the escape, the one safe corner left. Sadly, that path isn't any brighter, and we're headed there next. Number 5, Starbucks Instant Cappuccino. When we talk about premium brands, Nescafe barely enters the conversation. Starbucks sits far above it. Its cappuccino is known around the world and carries a reputation no other instant brand can touch. But once Starbucks turns that drink into powder, everything changes. The instant version doesn't protect the brand, it exposes it. And anyone who cares about real coffee can feel that from the first sip. Let's get straight to the problem. Starbucks Instant Cappuccino is not built on coffee and milk. It is built on foaming agents and stabilizers. The moment you pour hot water in, the sachet reacts aggressively because of chemicals designed to inflate the drink quickly. The foam you see is not real dairy foam. It comes from additives such as mono and diglycerides, dipotassium phosphate, and other stabilizers whose job is to push air into the liquid, not improve the flavor. These ingredients cause more trouble than benefit. Foaming agents often lead to bloating pressure in the stomach and a lightheaded feeling that shows up 15 to 20 minutes after drinking. Older drinkers feel this more clearly because digestion slows with age. Stabilizers like phosphates place additional load on kidney and heart function. Several European public health reports warn that high phosphate intake increases cardiovascular strain, especially in people over 50. These aren't rare side effects. They are documented responses to regular use of processed foaming ingredients. Then there is the sweetness. Starbucks loads the mix with sugar to create a pleasant first sip, but that sweetness is shallow. It gives a small rise in energy, then drops sharply. The bitterness that follows feels thin because the coffee content is low, often under 15% of the total mix. The rest is milk powder sugar and chemicals meant to hold everything together. You feel the gap immediately. The drink looks full, but the body doesn't respond like it would to real coffee. Now we reach the part that raises a bigger question. Why did Starbucks decide to make an instant cappuccino at all? A cappuccino depends on fresh milk foam and real espresso. Both require heat timing and technique. They do not survive dehydration. They do not survive storage. Instantizing this kind of drink removes the very qualities that make it worth drinking. Yet Starbucks still tried, and the result is a drink that behaves nothing like what the brand is known for. The instant version tastes thin, even though the foam looks thick. The flavor fades quickly. The milk notes feel artificial because they come from powder, not milk. The coffee doesn't cut through the mix. And because the formula relies on stabilizers to extend shelf life, the cup leaves a lingering heaviness that a real cappuccino never produces. People notice. A friend of mine, Samuel, bought a box hoping it would save time during busy mornings. After his second cup, he said the drink made his stomach tighten and his breathing feel shallow for a short moment. That reaction came from the additives, not the coffee. When the foam is created by chemicals instead of dairy, the body reacts differently, and usually not in a good way. What makes this even more disappointing is Starbucks' reputation. The company built its image on consistency and quality, but the instant cappuccino shows the opposite. It cuts corners, it leans on chemicals, it drops the coffee content, and it expects the brand name to carry the rest. That approach might work for people who never compare the instant version to the real drink, but anyone who has ever ordered a cappuccino in a shop will notice the difference immediately. Starbucks has also faced complaints in recent years about unstable drink quality in stores, inconsistent foam shifting recipes, uneven shots. Maybe that's why their instant version is packed with stabilizers and attempt to force stability where skill used to be. But chemicals cannot replace technique, and they cannot save a drink that is weak from the start. The truth is simple. Starbucks instant cappuccino carries the price of a premium drink but the structure of a low-tier sachet. And once you understand how it is built, it becomes clear that its reputation does not match its reality. Number 6. Cafe Asia 3-in-1. If you thought the last few brands were already pushing the limit, let me introduce you to the one that doesn't even pretend to be polite. Cafe Asia 3-in-1. This is the first mix that comes at you head first. No subtlety, no balance. Just sweetness oil and a hit of artificial coffee. Smell strong enough to catch you before the cup reaches your mouth. Let's stop being gentle and say it plainly. Cafe Asia isn't built for taste. It's built for impact. A quick shock, a fake punch, a cheap rush. Look at the numbers and you'll understand why. In many batches, sugar accounts for more than 40% of the mix. Palm kernel oil creamer sits right behind it, and real coffee makes up less than 5%. 5%. At that point, you're not drinking coffee. You're drinking a caffeinated dessert pretending to act tough. And the body knows it immediately. The moment this thing hits your system, you get that sharp jump, not because you're energized, but because your blood sugar just vaulted upward. Your hands get slightly light, your breathing picks up, and your chest feels warm in a way that has nothing to do with coffee. Then comes the artificial aroma, a smell so strong it tricks your brain for a few seconds into thinking the drink has depth. It doesn't. It's just flavouring doing all the heavy lifting because the coffee is too weak to show up. Then the palm creamer takes over. Thick, heavy, oily. It coats your mouth before it even reaches your stomach. Palm kernel oil is cheap, stable and efficient for companies, but not for the people drinking it. Excessive intake has been linked to elevated LDL cholesterol, and several Southeast Asian health surveys point out that regular consumption of palm oil-based creamers correlates with higher cardiovascular strain in older adults. Yet this sachet treats palm oil like its main character. If Nescafe and Starbucks used creamers, Cafe Asia uses creaminess as a weapon. And after that quick false lift comes the crash. Not a small dip, a crash. You go from awake to drained in under an hour. Your limbs feel hollow, your thoughts slow down, and your stomach sends that familiar warning signal. We didn't get food, we got sugar. Older drinkers experience an even worse cycle: jittery rise, sudden sweat, mild headache, then a sluggish mid-morning slump. That isn't aging, that's formulation. And the funniest part, Cafe Asia markets this as the strong choice. Strong where? In the sugar in the oil, in the flavouring that tries its absolute best to smell like burnt coffee. Strength doesn't come from dumping sweetness and fat into a mug. Strength comes from beans. But since this mix barely has any, it compensates with aggression. Let's talk honesty. This brand doesn't lie about being premium like Starbucks, and it doesn't hide behind chocolate like Tesco Mocha. Cafe Asia does something else, it shouts. Loud sweetness, loud aroma, loud crash. Everything is loud because nothing is real. It's the instant coffee version of someone speaking too loudly in a room to hide the fact they have nothing useful to say. And here's the peculiar thing, some people actually interpret that loudness as energy. They think, wow, this wakes me up. No, it doesn't. It shocks you, then abandons you. True energy builds. This one explodes and dies. Drink it for a week and tell me how many mornings you spend hungry, shaky or irritated before lunch. The cultural lie here is simple. Cafe Asia pretends to be bold, but boldness requires stability, flavour and intention. This sachet provides none of that. It delivers speed and chaos, two things no older drinker needs more of. And this brings us to the reality of our countdown. We've covered sweetness disguised as coffee foam, disguised as texture chocolate, disguised as comfort. Now we're facing loudness disguised as strength. And one last truth before we move on, Cafe Asia isn't even the lowest point, no. We still have one more brand mix so careless with its ingredients that even Cafe Asia starts looking restrained next to it. Number 7, Aldi Alcafe 3-in-1. Let's stop pretending. Aldi Alcafe 3-in-1 is not coffee, not close, not halfway, not in spirit, not in taste, not in effect. This is the bottom of the shelf, the bottom of the standards, and the bottom of everything we've talked about so far. Every brand before this at least tried to act like coffee. Alcafe doesn't bother. It strips the drink down to sugar creamer and a smell that barely passes as coffee-ish and somehow still sits on the same shelf as actual coffee. That alone should irritate anyone who knows what a cup is supposed to be. Look at the structure. In many batches, the coffee content drops to under 4%. 4%. What exactly do you expect your brain or body to do with that? You're not getting caffeine, you're getting a trace. The rest of the sachet is dextrose powdered fat anti-caking agents and synthetic aroma strong enough to fool you for the first 2 seconds. From the first sip, you can tell nothing about this drink is built to energize you. It's built to fill space. That's it. And the body reacts accordingly. The sweetness pushes your blood sugar up quickly and loudly. Then the drop hits. You feel a heaviness behind your eyes. Your focus thins out. Your stomach feels warm, but not in a comforting way. Your mood goes flat. That's the effect of a sugary drink with almost no caffeine support. Older drinkers notice this, even more tired arms, a short fuse, slow thinking. It's not morning fatigue, it's the drink. It gives nothing and takes plenty. Then there's the aroma, the only thing in this sachet pretending to hold the line. It jumps out fast, dies fast, and leaves nothing behind. No bitterness, no depth, no body. The moment the sweetness fades, all that's left is a faint, stale aftertaste that disappears as quickly as it arrives. There is no structure, no layer, no reason to take a second sip except hunger or habit. And here's the part that gets under my skin. Coffee has culture, identity, history. It carries the work of farmers, roasters, brewers. It has rules. It has pride. Alcafe ignores all of that and reduces the drink to a flavoured packet. No respect, no intention, just the cheapest possible formula pushed into the market because it can be, not because it should be. Let me be even more honest here. I drank this thing. Not once. Enough times to know the pattern. First sip, too sweet. Second sip, still no coffee. Halfway through the cup, you realise your mouth feels coated. Your head feels slightly dull, and when you finish it, the only thing you feel is regret. Actual regret. Because nothing in the experience resembles coffee, and everything in the aftermath tells you it wasn't worth the calories, the time, or the expectation. And the mood after drinking it, frustration. Because I've spent my life around coffee, real coffee, and to see the drink reduced to this empty shell is exhausting. Completely exhausting. You can make mistakes with foam, with sweetness, with balance. That happens. But this is abandoning the idea of coffee altogether. If the other brands on this list were disappointing, Alcafe is disrespectful. And that's why this segment is the last. Not because it's the loudest or the worst tasting, but because it lets go of the identity of coffee entirely. When a product crosses that line, there is nothing left to defend. And now, let me say this clearly. By now, you and I probably share the same feeling. There's no good coffee left. Everything sounds terrible. Everything looks compromised. But no good coffee still exists. It just asks for something from us, a bit of patience, a bit of tolerance, and most importantly, awareness. That's why before we end this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to choose a truly good coffee on your own. Let's fix this properly. How to choose good coffee. Let's make one thing absolutely clear before we go any further. Instant coffee and fresh coffee are not the same. If you have time, energy, and even the slightest respect for what goes into a real cup, stay with fresh. Fresh beans, fresh grounds, fresh brew. The processed versions cannot match it, not in taste, not in effect, not in quality. There is no negotiation on this point. But life is practical. Not everyone has time to grind beans at 6 in the morning. Not everyone has a machine at home. Many people rely on convenience, and that's completely understandable. So if you still need to buy packed coffee, whether plain powder or the 3-in-1 type, then here is the only guide you need. Follow these rules and you will avoid most of the problems that dragged all those brands down the list. First rule, check the coffee percentage. Anything below 70% for plain instant coffee is already weak. Anything below 50% for a 3-in-1 is unacceptable. These numbers matter because they tell you exactly how much of what you're drinking is actually coffee. If the real coffee sits low on the list, you're buying filler, not flavour, not caffeine, not quality. Don't touch it. Second rule, watch the sugar. If sugar appears in the first 2 positions of the ingredient list, put the box back. That means you're not buying a coffee mix, you're buying a sweet drink with a coffee hint. Sugar-heavy sachets cause unstable energy mood swings, and that late morning crash many older drinkers blame on age. It's often the sugar, not the years. Choose mixes where coffee leads, not sugar. Third rule, look at the creamer. Many companies use palm kernel oil creamers because they're cheap, stable and easy to store, but they leave the body feeling heavy, sluggish and uncomfortable. Some add hydrogenated fat, which should be a deal breaker. If the label doesn't clearly say milk powder, assume the worst. Good creamers are simple. Bad creamers are loud. Skip every product with hydrogenated non-dairy creamer or palm oil anywhere in the list. Fourth rule, count the additives. Coffee should not require a paragraph of chemicals. If the list has more than 6 to 8 ingredients, something is wrong. Anti-caking agents, stabilizers, foaming agents, artificial aroma, boosters. These are shortcuts used to make up for low-grade coffee. A good product has nothing to hide, so it doesn't hide behind additives. Treat long lists as warnings. Fifth rule. Look for transparency. Real coffee companies tell you the roast level, the bean type, and sometimes even the origin. Low-quality brands stay vague. If the box can't tell you whether it's Arabica or Robusta, or if it refuses to mention roast profile, it means the sourcing isn't good. Specific labels signal confidence. Missing details signal a problem. Sixth rule. Check the caffeine content. Some brands show it, many don't. If the caffeine number isn't listed, assume the drink is weak or chemically adjusted. You deserve to know how strong your coffee is before drinking it. It affects mood, energy, sleep and focus. This should not be hidden information. Seventh rule, apply price logic. If a 10 sachet pack costs less than a single cup of coffee in a cafe, the ingredients reflect that. Coffee is an agricultural product. It costs money to grow, process, ship and roast. Extremely cheap products are cheap for a reason, and that reason never favours you. So after all these warnings and rules, the natural question appears. How many of these criteria does a brand need to pass to be considered a good coffee? The answer is simple. A product should meet at least 5 out of the 7 advisory points to qualify as good or even reliable. Passing fewer than that means the drink will either be too sweet, too weak, too artificial, or structurally unstable for everyday use. If you want examples of contenders that meet or come close to these expectations, you do have options. For instant purists, lines like Davidoff Espresso 57 or Taster's Choice Pure perform far better than the typical 3-in-1 mixes because they keep the ingredient list short and the coffee content high. Now let me end with this. You and I spent the entire video tearing these bad products apart. It's easy to feel like there's nothing good left, but that's not true. Good coffee still exists. You just have to approach it with patience, with tolerance for trial and error, and with the awareness you now hold. From this point on, choosing a good cup is no longer luck. It's a decision, and you finally know how to make it.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage education. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.